I can't even get a date. I literally cannot even get one date, get people to meet me. I don't understand what it is. I'm not on the dating apps, trying to meet people in real life. Thought maybe I would try my DMs to see if that was an option, like my own personal dating app for all my social media. That's not working. What is it? Like, what am I not getting? What am I doing wrong? What am I not seeing?
In this video, I'm going to answer her question. What is she not seeing? I'm going to do that by explaining the big difference that men see between a woman's sexual market value and her marriage market value. The reason why these are two distinct categories is because men place women into two distinct groups, women who are good to sleep with and women who you could commit to in the long term. Women will say, I don't understand, isn't that the same thing? No. For men, it's not the same thing. Men will sleep with women who they would never consider committing to in the long term. Whether you'd have sex with her and whether you'd marry her are judged on two completely different standards. Women aren't really like that. That's why they have difficulty understanding the male perspective, because they're not interested in casual sex in the same way that men are. For regular women with typical feminine values, if they'll be willing to sleep with you, then they're probably also willing to commit to you. That's why it's such a high percentage of women who are in friends with benefits arrangements secretly wish that they could be in a committed relationship with that man. I know with women becoming more promiscuous in the modern world, there are exceptions to this, but I'm talking in broad biological trends to demonstrate the difference between men and women. So because typically women would only sleep with a man that they'd be willing to commit to, there's not really any massive difference between a man's sexual market value and his marriage market value. They're kind of the same thing. Now that sucks for guys who don't perform well in like the club scene with all the casual sex, but feel like they would make amazing husbands. They wish there were differentiated markets because in the marriage market, they feel like they'd be very successful. Sure, they might not be very tall or confident or successful or good looking or have a lot of game, but they're kind, they're loyal, they'd make great fathers. And a lot of those guys bide their time waiting for the moment when women exit the sexual marketplace and then enter into the marriage marketplace where they imagine that they're going to have dominance. Sometimes that does happen. Women spend their youth, their 20s, sleeping around, having fun, dating all the chads, but at some point they get sick of the fuckboys and they mature, their tastes change, and they look for a different set of qualities. That can occur. Whether you want to wait for a woman who's left her prime is a different discussion. But it's not unheard of. When women get older, their tastes change, they become less attractive to the opposite sex, and so they start to settle and change what they're looking for. That does occur. But you know what else occurs? Is that women become accustomed to a certain type of man through all of their sexual encounters. So even when she gets older and she's now looking for marriage, she's not able to appreciate the good qualities of those marriage market guys because she's been so thoroughly spoiled through her casual sex encounters. All the men that she has slept with have essentially ruined her ability to enjoy a marriage market kind of man.
You're looking for a less than 1% man. And you, yes, you are.
She's a 1% female.
No, she's not. You're not. You're not in. You're not. You're
You
not.
don't know me. You don't know what I put on the table in relationships. The most
A single.
important part.
You're a single mother. You are not.
So?
You are not. I'm not saying this to be mean, but you are not in the.
you're mean.
Let me finish. You are not in the 1% of desirable partners out there. You're just not.
So what? Do you want me to lower my standards or what? What your like?
If you want to find
I'd
a partner
rather
and
to be alone
You'd rather-
than agree with their bare minimum. Period.
there it is.
She could be feminine, sweet, smart, all of that, but if she thinks that as a single mother she's in the top percent of all women, she's delusional. The arrogance of that is astounding. It shows she has no idea or even contempt for male preferences. Who cares what men actually want? That doesn't matter at all. But really, from a biological point of view, why would a man want to raise another man's child? Did you catch that part at the end when she said that she would rather be alone than lower her standards? In the manosphere, they call women with this attitude alpha widows. These women who spend their 20s in the sexual marketplace sleeping with lots of top tier men, offering sex without commitment, and in so doing getting a lot of attention from high status guys. And so they come to believe that it's that quality of man that they deserve. But what they don't understand is that for men, there's a sexual market value and a marriage market value. And yeah, When you're young and hot and there's a very low barrier of entry to sleep with you, you're pretty high rating in the sexual market value, but that doesn't mean that they're going to commit to you. We saw some examples of women really struggling to come to terms with that reality in my paid course, which you can check out there. But this cultural attitude that women have that it's not incumbent upon them to make any effort to understand the male perspective, male preferences, has got to come to an end. Not just because it's completely dehumanizing for us to have our perspective just dismissed or treated with contempt, but also because it's not doing women any favors to not understand where men are coming from. So if there are any women listening to this video, please believe me when I tell you this as an absolute fact. There are women that men would sleep with but would never marry. Just because you as a woman might have a low marriage market value does not mean that you're not able to get a lot of attention from high status men, but it's going to be sexual attention, nothing more. But if you're okay with that, then you're going to get away with it. You can have a bad personality, you can have an extensive sexual history, you can have a lot of financial debt, you can have all of this stuff, and men will still be willing to sleep with you. But if you're expecting a commitment and a ring, you're in for a really rude awakening, because it's not enough to just be young and hot and up for sex. That's not going to get men to commit to you, to propose to you. If you have nothing else going for you, you have no depth, no character, men aren't going to think of you as a potential wife. They're going to think of you in terms of one night of fun. That's where these alpha widows come from, is they spend their 20s sleeping around, enjoying men of a certain quality. And then when they turn 30 and they're ready to settle down, they're absolutely shocked that they can't find men of that same quality that are willing to commit to them. It's like this woman who I showed in my video on the ick. Let's watch her again.
Guys, I've honestly had enough. Why do guys always just use me? No guys freaking take me seriously, apart from like 2 guys in my whole life who gave me the ick because they were too nice. Like, this is a joke. They always just use me for money or the other thing, which you probably would assume.
Men just use me for the other thing. We all know what she's talking about. Men are sleeping with her, but they're not committing to her. And she's baffled. She's confused. She doesn't understand because she's made no effort to understand the male experience. Lots of men will sleep with a woman that they would never commit to. Women have a sexual market value and a marriage market value, and they're different things. But why would a man do that? Why would a man sleep with a woman even if he has no intention of having a relationship with her, of committing to her? Why would he just have sex with her? Because he can. If you let him, then that's what he's going to do. If he has that option, he'll take it. There are not many men who are going to turn down the offer of commitment-free sex. Biologically, we are hardwired to take advantage of such an opportunity. And if you don't want that to be you, you want men to take you seriously, my advice is to get out of the sexual marketplace and enter into the marriage marketplace. Be prepared that your ego is going to take a hit. You're going to need to humble yourself as you discover that your value is probably not as high as you imagined it was going to be. In the sexual marketplace, your value was really high. You got lots of attention because all you had to do was be young, hot, and up for it. You do that and hot guys with heaps of status are going to be interested in you because they're like, yeah, I want to have sex with you. But in the marriage market, you need to display so much more. You need dignity, you need character, you need femininity, you need family values, you need self-esteem, you need intelligence, creativity. But achieving those virtues is a lot harder in the marriage marketplace as opposed to just putting on some makeup and some revealing clothing and getting a higher rating in the sexual marketplace. You may find that as you start to dress less promiscuously, you start to flirt less, you start to engage in casual sex less, that your overall attention from men starts to drop, which if you've become reliant upon that for your self-esteem, that's going to hurt. But please don't lose faith. Just because it's not obvious that you're getting a lot of like horny male attention, don't think that those deeper qualities are going unnoticed by men. We do value these things. We want character. We want depth. We want to be with a woman who we're compatible with a similar set of values over the long term. That's the kind of woman that we commit to, that we marry, that we see as a long-term partner. I hear this over and over again in my Hey Hero requests, which is where people can ask me for advice. Where do I find these incredible high quality women? Where do I find a woman of depth? How do I sort through all the meaningless bullshit all the bimbos and actually find a woman of quality. And men, I'm not letting you off the hook on this one. This is not a channel where we just meaninglessly bash female behavior. I criticize male behavior too, and you bear some responsibility in this. It's very fashionable to just point at women acting more promiscuously and say, oh, well, what's happened to women? Where's all the femininity, without actually acknowledging the male role in creating this. If you want to see a world where the values that you admire, the femininity, the dignity and grace, are what's present in women, then stop giving so much attention to the women just because they have a high sexual market value. If you're in the sexual marketplace and you're constantly pumping up women's ego, giving them heaps of attention simply because they're young and hot and they're giving up sex easily, then you're partly to blame for this. Stop rewarding this behavior. You're not incentivizing women to improve. If you want women to raise their standards, then you have to raise your standards. Demand more from women. Demand more depth. The simping epidemic where we're treating women as though they're incredible special goddesses simply because they're women has got to stop. It's a fucking embarrassment. Men, what are we doing? You've got to stop giving women attention that they haven't earned. Otherwise, we're just contributing to the problem. And from this, it begs the question that if you as a man want to be noticed as a good marriage option, then what is your best course of action? If it's true that women see sexual market value and marriage market value as essentially the same thing, what's your strategy as a man? Should you keep cultivating those traits that are going to make you a good husband and father at some point? Or is that a fool's game? Should you just focus on increasing your sexual market value so that women notice you, that they want to sleep with you? I give the answer to this question in the full version of this video, which is available on Patreon. What you're seeing here on YouTube is just the shortened, abridged version. If you want access to the extended version, please come over to my Patreon.